Help me! Help me! Monsters, they are all monsters. We need support, damn it, where is the support? We can't hold on any longer. The second squad is gone, the third squad is gone too. Our bullets are useless, we can't kill them. Get us out, I want to go home. Outside the dormitory building, listening to the voices of his subordinates coming from the intercom, the officer sitting in the command vehicle was drenched in sweat, his back already soaked. He had severely underestimated the strength of those genetic warriors. Although they didn't have biological armor, they still maintained such formidable combat power. Hearing the distress calls on the intercom, he knew the situation was urgent. Order the 3rd Company, 7th Company, and 1st Special Squad to quickly enter the building. Bring heavy weapons to suppress the rebellion of those genetic warriors. Get me in contact with the rear command. I need to report the situation here and request armed helicopter support. Get everyone in the building to evacuate. Our reinforcements will cover them. Issuing these emergency commands, the National Guard major thought he had everything well planned, but the implementation on the ground was unmanageable. Upon receiving the orders, the 3rd Company, 7th Company, and 1st Special Squad all showed strong resistance to entering the building. Damn it! Who gave this shitty order? Are they sending us to die? If anyone forces me to go in, I'll shove my gun barrel up their ass. Shitty command, his own tactical blunder, and he wants us to clean up his mess? Do they think we don't have brains? The noise of dissent was overwhelming as they refused to accept the order to enter the building. Ultimately, the National Guard was essentially a militia, not professional soldiers. Apart from the annual fixed training, they all had other jobs. Some were chefs, some were waiters, some were cowboys. Their nature meant they couldn't be like professionals who regarded obeying orders as their highest duty, especially an order that was nearly a death sentence. Looking through history, only a few armies would dare to take on a mission guaranteed to lead to their deaths, fighting to the last man without surrendering. Such iron will was impossible to find in the National Guard. Even professional soldiers in the beautiful country are rarely seen with such resolve. What are you doing? Do you want to face a court-martial? The major officer poked his head out of the command vehicle, infuriated by the soldiers' refusal to execute the command. I'd rather face a court-martial than lose my life. Exactly. Why don't you go in? If you lead, I'll follow. Do you have the guts? Easy for you to say since you are not the one dying. No wonder you don't care. The soldiers cursed rudely, unwilling to carry out a suicide mission. The major's face turned dark with anger. He looked at other units, but wherever he looked, soldiers averted their eyes, showing the same reluctance. The stalemate continued wasting time. The carnage inside the dormitory didn't last long. With 20 genetic warriors going all out, the slaughter efficiency was terrifyingly high. In less than 5 minutes, the screams and pleas inside completely ceased. The entire building fell silent, with only a faint bloody smell in the air, reminding the National Guard soldiers outside of the horrors happening within. In those few minutes, the National Guard outside the dormitory had not even managed to react, and the rear command hadn't come to a decision, but the battle inside the dormitory had already ended. From beginning to end, none of the National Guard soldiers who entered the building made it out as the dormitory became eerily quiet and still. Their fate was obvious. The remaining National Guard soldiers grew increasingly anxious, seeing the dormitory as a deadly trap that devours anyone who enters. Yes, all right, I understand. At that moment, the major finally received a call from the rear command. The 40th Mechanized Infantry Division's commander and staff decided to deploy armed helicopters and tanks to bomb the dormitory. Although they had artillery stationed outside the city, they dared not fire recklessly, lest misfired shells cause more chaos. Though reluctant to do so, firing tanks and armed helicopters in the city would have a huge impact. This had rarely happened in the beautiful country's history, especially with still-trapped athletes. However, the genetic warriors' formidable power left them no choice but to take this desperate measure. Otherwise, they wouldn't know how to handle them. After ending the call, the major visibly sighed in relief, a smile reappearing on his face. No matter how strong, the genetic warriors were still flesh and blood. Once the heavy weapons arrived, the entire building would be blasted to rubble, leaving the enemy no chance. "Let's see you hide from this." The major was just about to order the surrounding units to withdraw when the sound of glass shattering erupted from the dormitory building. 20 agile figures leapt out, some landing directly on their feet, jumping from 10 meters in the air. Others used the external air conditioning units and pipes, moving swiftly to the ground. The number of National Guard troops surrounding the dormitory building was at least 1,000. They had already set up sniper rifles and heavy machine guns, along with Humvees and wheeled armored vehicles which had their machine guns and cannons ready. "Those monsters are out," someone shouted, and the National Guard on the scene shuddered, clutching their weapons, and frantically pulled the triggers towards the incoming shadows. The heavy machine guns and cannons also turned their barrels, and with a series of dull thuds, 12.7 mm, 20 mm, and 30 mm shells came speeding forward. Split! Jumping out of the dormitory window were none other than the genetic warriors who had just massacred the dormitory. They did not choose to stay inside the building and wait for their doom but actively struck back. Miao Luan, the captain of this camp, carried a backpack which had already opened during his jump out of the window. A sealed vacuum box inside the backpack opened, releasing mercury-like fluid that continuously bubbled out and, like foam from washing clothes, surged and expanded, covering Miao Luan's head, neck, chest, arms, and legs. This liquid was the second-generation biological armor, the latest developed equipment of their steel camp. Their official name within the Jekka group was Mechanical Life Armor. Strictly speaking, it should not be categorized as mecha because it was a form of liquid life. In just a few seconds, Miao Luan was completely encased in the liquid, which began to solidify into a semi-solid state. Miao Luan's appearance drastically changed, now standing approximately 2.5 meters tall, entirely silver in color, resembling a silver statue. The armor's shape featured cuirass, pauldrons, leg skirts, neck guards, and other elements. Overall, it resembled an ancient full-body armor of a general from Hua country, covered in silver armor, reflecting sunlight and exuding a stable and mighty sense of power. Even in silence, it had an overwhelming presence. Bang, bang, bang. Bullets were fired at him, but they bounced off the second-generation life-breathing equipment without leaving a mark. Miao Luan sprinted forward, his feet adorned with mechanical life armor transforming from semi-solid to a blade-like sharpness. With the propulsion granted by the armor, when Miao Luan ran at full speed, he appeared to glide across the concrete ground like an ice skater, moving at tremendous speed with unparalleled grace. In a few glides, Miao Luan had already entered the crowd. At his hands, the mechanical life armor covering his arms flowed, forming two sharp long swords that extended from his hands. Slice! With a sweeping horizontal slash, several National Guard soldiers around Miao Luan were cut in half along with their guns, the sharpness of the long swords formed by the armor beyond imagination. As Miao Luan passed by, several National Guard soldiers dumbfoundedly stared at their bisected rifles, as if a paused scene suddenly resumed. Their upper and lower bodies split apart, severed in half. Arc! Screams echoed. Those cut in half did not die immediately but, driven by intense pain, instinctively crawled on the ground, dragging their upper bodies and leaving terrifying trails of blood, making the onlooking National Guard soldiers' scalps tingle. Miao Luan did not slow down, rapidly weaving through the crowd, his swords continuously slicing horizontally and vertically. Swords capable of cutting through steel made human flesh pathetically fragile, like knives through butter. With a swing of the sword, human skin and bones were as thin as paper. A soldier who had just raised his gun couldn't even pull the trigger before a silent sword sliced down. With one strike, his arm fell off with a snap. Before he could even cry out in pain, the sword cut through his neck, and his head rolled to the ground. His wide-open eyes stared blankly, while from the severed neck of his headless body, blood spurted more than a meter high. After a few shakes, the body collapsed with a thud. A soldier turned and tried to run, terrified by Miao Luan, wanting only to escape the slaughterhouse created by this monster before him. However, his speed was nothing before Miao Luan. With a jump, Miao Luan appeared behind him, his long sword slicing down in a straight line. The next second, the soldier's body split from the top of his head, extending down to his crotch, dividing into two halves, his warm innards spilling onto the ground. "I'll fight you." A soldier saw Miao Luan approaching and, realizing bullets were useless, and seeing his best friend slain, his eyes turned red. He grabbed a grenade, pulled the pin, and rushed forward, hugging Miao Luan from behind, intending to die together. In the face of their comrade's slaughter, someone was bound to be spurred into action. This brave man wanted to drag Miao Luan to hell with him, but he underestimated Miao Luan's prowess. Such a simple tactic did not even warrant a glance from Miao Luan. He swung his sword and cut down the enemy before him. The soldier hugging Miao Luan suddenly felt a pain in his chest. A silver spike, dozens of centimeters long, pierced his heart and protruded from his back, then pushed him away. "Ha, ha!" With wide-open mouth, the soldier could only watch helplessly as Miao Luan walked away, the silver spike at Miao Luan's back slowly melting and retracting. Without giving him a chance to regret, the grenade rolled beside him erupted with a thunderous explosion, blasting him away, engulfing all his consciousness, becoming yet another insignificant corpse in this conflict. As the battle unfolded, not only did Miao Luan's hands transform into sharp blades, but various parts of his body also began to change. Above his waist, his body sprouted thicker silver armor, and his head morphed into some unique biological information integration system. Tiny hairs grew on his feet, making him aware of every vibration on the surrounding ground. For example, an armored vehicle moving nearby, with its gun turret turning towards him. For example, someone behind aiming at him with a single soldier anti-tank missile. For example, a sniper lying in wait at a high vantage point, trying to lock onto his figure with an anti-material sniper rifle. The mechanical life armor endowed Miao Luan with immense combat power and made his information capture and collection more efficient. Modern warfare is all about information warfare, and capturing information on the battlefield is crucial. Miao Luan suddenly came to a screeching halt on the spot. A series of machine gun fire swept past in front of him, marked clearly by tracers. It wasn't that Miao Luan was faster than the bullets, but because he had preemptively captured the trajectory of the machine gun adjusting on the armored vehicle, allowing him to dodge beforehand. The machine gun fire didn't hit Miao Luan. Instead, it struck several of their own, turning them into shattered corpses. However, the battlefield was too chaotic, and Miao Luan couldn't avoid all the threatening attacks. Just as Miao Luan dodged a rocket, machine gun bullets swept towards him like a whip. Bang! 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 There were also National Guard soldiers near Miao Luan, who were blown to pieces by the machine gun. Unfortunately, the armored vehicle crew had lost their calm and didn't care about friendly fire. They were desperate to take down this monster, Miao Luan. The power of a machine gun is not comparable to ordinary rifle bullets. This caliber of a machine gun can even penetrate a tank's top, and an ordinary armored vehicle can't withstand such strafing. These massive machine gun bullets hit the mechanical life armor that Miao Luan wore, causing the silver armor to dent as if the bullets had sunk into latex. The bullets embedded but didn't penetrate, instead being expelled after dissipating the impact force through multiple layers. The machine gun bullets made Miao Luan stagger, his chest ached, and the incomplete dissipated force affected his body. Meanwhile, Miao Luan could also feel the mechanical life armor was somewhat languid. Its luster had dimmed compared to its initial brightness. This was the limitation of the mechanical life armor. Although it intercepted the machine gun, if hit multiple times, surpassing its limit, the armor would be completely destroyed, losing its defensive effect. But Miao Luan wouldn't let that happen. His eyes sharpened, immediately locating the retaliating armored vehicle, running in a zigzag pattern to avoid the machine gun fire, rushing towards it rapidly. While running, Miao Luan picked up a rocket launcher from the ground, loading a rocket into the tube. Reverse. The two sides were over 1,000 meters apart. Seeing Miao Luan charging aggressively, the armored vehicle driver quickly reversed. But Miao Luan, even while running, was far faster than the armored vehicle, with agility beyond comparison. At full speed, Miao Luan quickly approached the optimal range for the rocket launcher, decisively aiming at the armored vehicle and pulling the trigger. Boom! With a deafening roar, the rocket launcher's metal jet ignited the internal ammunition, setting the armored vehicle ablaze. Several of its crew ran out engulfed in flames, screaming in agony. Miao Luan knew his time was limited, so he chose to abandon close combat and deliberately picked up various weapons on the ground. Since inside the Olympic Village, he didn't have weapons prepared in advance and only brought the second-generation life-breeding equipment, so he needed the enemy to deliver arms to him. In no time, Miao Luan grabbed a machine gun, a sniper rifle, and a rocket launcher, stowing these weapons at his back. Instantly, mercury-like armor expanded, swallowing the weapons. Then on his shoulders, the silvery white liquid flowed, splitting and restructuring into two mercury arms, now holding two heavy machine guns, spraying bullets in all directions. He used the rocket launcher for armored targets or the sniper rifle for long-range sniping, simultaneously dodging incoming rockets and machine gun fire with agility. Meanwhile, Miao Luan himself brandished a Gatling machine gun in each hand, pouring out relentless bullet rain. At this moment, Miao Luan was essentially a humanoid firepower platform, bullets firing madly. Although close combat with sharp blades felt immensely satisfying, slicing through enemies like a fruit ninja, cleaving them in two. But, compared to the efficiency of guns, it was far less effective. A single bullet with a simple finger pull could take a life. Using swords required Miao Luan to charge at enemies personally, whereas in the same time, he could have fired countless bullets, killing many more enemies. In reality, the site was already on the verge of collapse. Miao Luan wasn't the only one committing these massacres, but also 19 other genetic warriors wearing mechanical life armor. The genetic warriors, with their strong physiques and abilities, combined with mechanical life armor, had devastating effects against light infantry and light armor. Their bullets were mostly deflected by the armor, leaving only machine guns, anti-tank missiles, and rockets as threats. But, under the collective effort of the warriors, these high-threat targets were quickly eliminated. The remaining infantry, faced with the genetic warriors, were like lambs awaiting slaughter. They couldn't hold on and began fleeing this nightmarish place at all costs. The genetic warriors pursued and executed, chasing out of the Olympic Village onto the streets, leaving behind a trail of dismembered corpses, blood flowing and splattering freely, turning the once holy sports ground into a blood-soaked slaughterhouse. Oh my God! It's so intense. The gunfire and explosions sound like a war zone. Everyone, please hit the follow button quickly. War correspondent Jimmy is bringing you live updates from the Los Angeles battle. Outside the Olympic Village in Los Angeles, on a street, a white guy was holding his phone, pointing the camera towards the Olympic Village, with an excited and thrilled expression on his face, talking non-stop. He was an online streamer, but not very famous, with less than 500 followers. He had come to the Olympic Village to stream, and upon seeing the National Guard entering like a city takeover, he cleverly hid himself and snuck into this building, opening his camera to continue his live stream. Subsequent events proved that his decision was absolutely correct. Shortly after large numbers of National Guard soldiers entered the Olympic Village, it was filled with intense firefights and gunfire. The sounds were more intense than firecrackers on New Year's, crackling non-stop. And on the entire streaming platform, his live stream instantly attracted huge attention and caused a sensation. Massive viewers flooded into his broadcast, causing his viewership to skyrocket, and his follower count also soared. The stream went from a few sparse viewers to 500,000 online, and it was still rapidly increasing. Too bad I don't have a drone. Otherwise I'd definitely fly inside to show you all just how intense the fighting is in the Olympic Village. Jimmy was somewhat regretful, seeing the skyrocketing number of viewers and the fast-scrolling comments. He felt that if he had a drone, getting millions of viewers wouldn't be just a dream. Just as Jimmy was still speaking, several Humvees and armored vehicles suddenly drove out of the Olympic Village without looking back, heading down the street. The vehicles were crammed with people not only inside, but there were also people sitting on top, looking like tickets in India with everyone showing expressions of shock and horror. Outside the Olympic Village, there were still many National Guard members stationed, but because the incident happened too suddenly, the firefight didn't last long. Many of them still didn't know what had happened inside the Olympic Village and didn't dare to rush in. Now seeing their comrades coming out, they were eager to understand the situation. One of the Humvees, packed with people, had just exited the entrance when a series of heavy machine gun bullets swept out from the Olympic Village. The bullets broke through the thin Humvee, like skewering candied fruits, sweeping through the soldiers inside, blood dripping drop by drop from the seams, instantly turning the Humvee into a corpse vehicle. Witnessing this scene, on-site National Guard soldiers were stunned, many of whom had never experienced war, let alone such a brutal scene unfolding before their eyes. The impact was unimaginable. Run! Those monsters inside are terrifying. They're coming out. If you don't leave now, you'll die here. The soldiers running out of the Olympic Village had no intention of stopping. They continued flooring the gas pedal, speeding towards the outskirts of Los Angeles. They weren't even willing to stay in Los Angeles. Risking being labeled as deserters, they didn't want to face those monsters again. Many National Guard members on site hadn't yet recovered, and then they saw at the entrance of the Olympic Village, a red and white figure leaped onto the wall, gazing at them with bloodthirsty, dangerous eyes. The fierceness in those eyes was unparalleled, making them feel like little hamsters facing a hawk in the sky, a natural predator-prey relationship, causing their hairs to stand on end, and even with guns in hand, they felt no sense of security. Soon after, the second, third, fourth, one by one, red and white figures appeared at the Olympic Village entrance, dressed in silver mechas. The red was blood that hadn't dried yet. Too much blood had splattered on them, mixing with the silver of the battle armor, creating this color. Next, act freely. Miao Luan sneered, moving her body, jumping down from the wall, charging forward like a sharp sword. With practical experience in controlling the second-generation life-breeding equipment, Miao Luan used it even more skillfully. All the various weapons on her body fired one after another, raining bullets down like a storm, sweeping down one National Guard soldier after another. While shooting, Miao Luan used the complex environment of the street to keep covering herself. Her firepower output didn't stop for a moment during this process. The various buildings on the street became Miao Luan's best cover, not wanting to damage her mechanical life armor further. The genetic warriors also joined the battle, and it was almost a one-sided slaughter. The National Guard light infantry hadn't been a match for Miao Luan and her team in the open field. Now, in the more complex environment of urban street warfare, the genetic warriors' threat level increased even further. The National Guard members didn't want to flee, but their speed couldn't match the genetic warriors, and they were surrounded by them. Yes, the genetic warriors turned around and surrounded the National Guard, who outnumbered them dozens of times. Taking control of the main streets, the genetic warriors used both hands to lift cars, blocking intersections, setting up guns and cannons, and started clearing out the National Guard members hiding in the area. Miao Luan kept running and firing, with the integrated information center in her head essentially being a small biological radar, combined with the vibration sensors under her feet, making the enemy's movements clearly visible. The bullets never stopped. A National Guard soldier hid behind a building door, looking for a chance to ambush. But Miao Luan had already anticipated his position. The heavy machine gun aimed at his location, the ammo belt jittered, and thick bullets started firing. The wooden door couldn't even stop regular rifle bullets, let alone 12.7mm machine gun rounds. The wooden door was turned into a sieve in a blink of an eye. The National Guard soldier hiding behind it had no chance. He was turned into minced meat by the machine gun. Even his own mother wouldn't recognize him. A soldier fired a grenade toward Miao Luan's position. It was a 40mm explosive grenade from a grenade launcher. Several heavy machine guns also unleashed a barrage in his direction. With a slight move, Miao Luan hid behind a sturdy concrete block. Bullets and grenades pounded the block, causing it to vibrate and shed debris, exposing the rebar inside, attempting to suppress Miao Luan with concentrated fire. But at this moment, the two mercurial arms on Miao Luan's shoulders extended, reaching out beyond the wall. The mercurial arms grabbed a heavy machine gun and opened fire at the enemy's direction, taking them down immediately. Damn it, I'll ram you to death. Just as Miao Luan stepped out not far, a National Guard soldier drove a car, flooring the gas pedal, aiming straight to hit Miao Luan. Miao Luan extended his arms, directly stopping the car speeding toward him with a squeak. Vroom! The engine roared, tires screeched against the ground, unable to move any further. In the next moment, under the terrified gaze of the National Guard soldier driving, 2 machine guns on Miao Luan's back aimed at him. Muzzle flashes, and the man became a corpse. Putting down the car, Miao Luan continued his hunt as if nothing had happened. Entering a narrow alley, a squad of National Guard soldiers laid an ambush. Aside from bullets, one of the soldiers angrily shouted, wielding a flamethrower, trying to burn Miao Luan to death. Miao Luan's left hand covered by mercury expanded, transforming into a shield to block the flames. In the meantime, he quickly countered with his gun, killing the flamethrower wielder with a headshot. Miao Luan then discarded his near-empty Gatling gun and picked up the flamethrower from the ground, strapping the fuel tank to his back, secured by mercury, striding toward the nearby building. A lot of National Guard soldiers were hiding inside. They had set up machine guns and various heavy weaponry at the entrance, ready to unleash a full assault on any genetic warrior entering, tearing them to shreds. However, Miao Luan didn't even use the main entrance. Taking an unconventional route, the mercury on his palms morphed into ice axe-like structures. His feet formed toothed spikes, turning into crampon constructs for climbing. Miao Luan climbed the wall with a combination of hands and feet, embedding his sharp extremities into the wall, securing his position with each move. In no time, Miao Luan reached a window on an upper floor, deftly slipping inside. In the room was a family of 3, startled by the ongoing gunfire in the street below. A man, a woman, and a young girl. The man held a pistol. Hearing the commotion, he saw a towering figure appear in the room, nearly touching the ceiling. Wah! The little girl, upon seeing Miao Luan's blood-covered and ferocious appearance, bawled in terror, tears flowing like pearls. The woman quickly covered the child's mouth, fearing that the crying might anger this demon. They're not here. They're in the lobby downstairs. The man also quickly holstered his gun, raising his hands to show he posed no threat. Ignoring them, Miao Luan walked straight out the door and made his way down. Reaching the lobby, the National Guard soldiers were nervously watching the building entrance, completely unaware of the figure behind them. Bam! 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 Without any hesitation, Miao Luan wielded the Gatling machine gun in his left hand, the flamethrower in his right, with 2 heavy machine guns on his shoulders firing simultaneously. Like autumn leaves swept by the wind, the scene was inundated with a rain of bullets. The unwary National Guard soldiers suffered heavy casualties. The few who tried to escape into rooms or bathrooms were incinerated by the flamethrower, turning into human torches, screaming horribly until they turned to charred corpses. The genetic warriors' slaughter methods were a dimension-reducing strike against the National Guard. Holy crap! Holy crap! What am I seeing? What are those monsters? As the genetic warriors massacred, from the window of a building, Jimmy swore repeatedly, his mouth agape, unable to hide his shock and fear. Watching the bloody, battlefield-like scene, Jimmy's hand holding the phone was trembling. In the Livestream channel, due to the appearance of the genetic warriors, the viewer count had surged to millions, the comments flooding like rain. Damn it! What are those silver-armored things? Wardfa, those are genetic warriors. I remember their biological armor wasn't like this. Did they upgrade or something? It's definitely an upgrade. This mecha makes them even more terrifying. Our National Guard is being slaughtered. Oh God! Please save your merciful followers. How can they do this? Too strong, those genetic warriors are too strong. Our soldiers have no power to fight back in front of them. Useless, what a bunch of useless people our taxpayer money is supporting. So many of them are being suppressed by just 20 people. It's an embarrassment to our beautiful country. This is a disgrace to our beautiful country. Fight back now. Where are our Air Force and tanks? If bullets can't kill them, can't shells and bombs take them down? Is Los Angeles going to start a war? My God, if that's the case, I can't just stand by. I want to join the battlefield too. At Freedom Black Black. What are you going to do? Even the National Guard can't handle them. Do you think you can take them down with just your handgun or rifle? Idiot, only fools would go to fight for them. I'm going to enjoy some free shopping. Count me in. +1. The live stream room was buzzing with excitement. Jimmy's phone caught sight of Miao Luan just exiting a building at this moment. Covered in blood from head to toe, Miao Luan, captured by a 50-megapixel phone camera, looked like a devil walking out of hell. Blood dripped drop by drop from the mechanical life armor. 2 heavy machine guns mounted on his shoulders with smoking hot barrels. Each step he took left a bloody footprint. Huh? Miao Luan suddenly lifted his head and locked eyes with Jimmy on the 4th-floor window. In an instant, Jimmy felt his heart stop, his face turned ashen, and his tongue went stiff. But luckily, Miao Luan didn't make a move on him. He had no time to waste on civilians, and turned to continue searching for other soldiers. Scared to death. I can't stay here, it's too dangerous. What if those monsters start attacking civilians? Jimmy only dared to speak after Miao Luan walked away, venting his fears into his phone's camera. Fake. I was just on the toilet, and seeing him almost made me cut my shit off. My dog was watching the live stream with me, and just one look scared it into tucking its tail. Is killing intent a real thing? These genetic warriors are battle-hardened. Didn't think much watching them during the Olympics, but their eyes now are terrifying, scarier than any beast. Are you crazy, streamer? You want to be a deserter? We haven't had enough of this live stream yet. That's right. I tipped you. Keep the live stream going. I want to see rivers of blood. You better not run. Millions are watching the stream. If you dare ghost us, I'll come find you offline. In the live stream room, when Jimmy said he wanted to run, the viewers immediately protested. They hadn't had enough yet. Such a real battlefield. While some were physically uncomfortable, many more were eagerly watching. Whether it was out of curiosity, or an admiration for the strength of the genetic warriors, or wanting to see their eventual fate, they didn't want to leave at this moment. Originally planning to run, Jimmy, seeing the audience numbers skyrocket and tips flooding in, the amount reaching millions of US dollars, felt a rush of heat to his head. He instantly dismissed the idea of running, thinking he could never forgive himself for abandoning such a fortune. I was just kidding, folks. War correspondent Jimmy never backs down. Only death can stop me. I will continue to live stream the battle in Los Angeles and bring you the most real-time coverage. Jimmy shouted excitedly. Life-threatening wasn't a big deal. For a chance to get rich overnight and become a super famous streamer, he decided to go all in. More and more viewers were drawn in, and with the situation escalating, not just Jimmy was streaming, but all local Los Angeles news media were hurrying over. The faster ones had already flown helicopters near the Olympic Village, broadcasting live to television audiences. Such sensational news had already spread across the entire beautiful country. Homemakers stopped cooking and ran to the sofa to watch the news. Employees secretly watched the live stream on their computers at work. Countless people excitedly watched the live coverage from Los Angeles. Now, in the Blue Star Village era, information from all over was interconnected. Once the news hit social media, it was shared wildly, and the whole world knew about the large-scale casualty incident in Los Angeles. Miao Luan and the others were nearing the end of their fight because with the National Guard's urgent redeployment, a large number of heavy armored units and armed helicopters entered the city. Those M1A2 main battle tanks, self-propelled howitzers, Apache armed helicopters, and so on, all entered the Los Angeles city limits. Miao Luan and his group hid in tall buildings, using the natural cover, plus the presence of many civilians in the buildings, making those heavy weapons hesitant to fire. The tanks and helicopters on site could fire, but with the whole nation and even the world watching live, the consequences of firing were unthinkable. The battle thus entered a bizarre stalemate. The Jekka group took over the high buildings, while the 40th Mechanized Infantry Division of the National Guard made a large-scale entry into the city, but with the experience of the Olympic Village dormitory building, they dared not send infantry in to clear the buildings, only to be massacred by the genetic warriors. However, while the fighting at the Olympic Village paused, the chaos in Los Angeles didn't stop. A large number of black people wouldn't miss this opportunity to loot, calling friends, banding in groups, starting their happy, free shopping. Stores, phone shops, appliance stores were emptied by them. Releasing their nature, they were extremely excited, some even holding homemade Molotov cocktails to start fires, burning cars and shops, thick black smoke rising from all over the city. Others took to the streets with weapons, purposefully robbing and killing, making a fortune, leaving Los Angeles police and firefighters overwhelmed. With many police redeployed near the Olympic Village, a lack of officers to maintain order made the blacks even more unrestrained, turning the city into their carnival, wantonly indulging in violence and joy. This was also the backlash from Beautiful Country's gun proliferation issue. Due to the demands of arms dealers, Beautiful Country faced repeated setbacks in gun control policies, with a vast number of weapons in private hands, creating huge chaos and destruction whenever order falters. As the saying goes, with a weapon comes the intention to kill. With large-scale free shopping by blacks, Los Angeles became a battlefield with gunfire all around in no time. It started with sporadic gunfire, but with fewer police, the blacks became increasingly reckless, freely destroying, and the gunfire grew ever denser across the city. Those unaware might even think the genetic warriors of the Jekka group had succeeded in their raid, and that Los Angeles was about to fall. Near Olympic Village Street, within a 3-kilometer radius, the 40th Mechanized Infantry Division has surrounded the area. On the ground, main battle tanks and armored vehicles are blocking the streets, snipers have taken the high ground in the buildings, and soldiers are armed and ready, while armed helicopters hover above. Inside Olympic Village Street, 20 genetic warriors are scattered across various floors of the buildings, staying in contact through earpieces. Miao Luan sat in a room that used to be a boss's office, but now it's deserted. Dismantle the armor. Miao Luan pressed a few buttons on his mechanical life armor, and the silver armor flowed like mercury, continuously pouring onto the ground, expelling the air inside. It contracted like a sponge, eventually forming a droplet-shaped life form, about a size larger than a basketball, in front of Miao Luan. He reached out and held it in his palm. It felt sticky and elastic, with a texture resembling flesh, looking like an oversized piece of jelly. Its life form somewhat resembles Tai Sui. This meat Ganoderma is neither animal nor plant. It is an aggregate of slime molds, bacteria, and fungi, known as the fourth form of life on Blue Star. Overall, it appeared oval, with small crystals embedded on its surface, and red liquid metal flowing over its textured surface, making it look like a dragon fruit. If there were cultivators from Tianyuan World here, they would recognize these crystals as a material for crafting flying swords, known as Yuan Magnetic Crystal. Its function is to combine with a cultivator's spiritual power, allowing them to control the flying sword to traverse the void with ease. The liquid metal is known as Xianning iron, a spiritual material that remains liquid at room temperature, providing excellent defense and malleability, and it's a key factor in the mechanical life armor's strong defense and versatility. This mechanical life armor is the latest achievement developed by Su Jie using the Insect Transformation Manual, combining various poisonous insects and meat tumors. Miao Luan didn't understand the principle. He only knew that adapting to the mechanical life armor, since it was issued, was extremely painful. Because the mechanical life armor has life, it organically merges with the host. The sensation felt as if a hole was being carved out of his body, and then this armor was grafted into it. The technique of grafting plants involves attaching stems or buds from one plant to the trunk or roots of another, so that the connected parts grow into one comprehensive plant. Miao Luan's process of merging with the mechanical life armor was akin to biological grafting. It took a full month before he finally adapted to it. In the steel camp, many genetic warriors couldn't withstand such mental torment and physical rejection. Some gave up and chose to continue wearing the first-generation life prosthesis. Those who could adapt to the second-generation mechanical life armor were the elite among the genetic warriors. As for ordinary people, it's impossible to use the mechanical life armor. Their bodies simply couldn't withstand it. Forced use would result in being drained dry. Although the process was painful, the combat power boost it brought to Miao Luan was incredibly exaggerated. The more advanced mechanical life armor significantly enhances physical functions, defense, agility, and strength, with more versatile shape-shifting capabilities. The high-fluidity material enriches the genetic warrior's combat tactics. This portability and concealment allow them to perform special operations more effectively. For instance, during city infiltration for assassination, the first-generation life prosthesis was over 3 meters tall and impossible to transport covertly or use conveniently. The second-generation mechanical life armor, however, is only the size of a basketball and difficult for equipment to detect. Could be easily transported in and out of locations and merge with the body within seconds, covering the body with armor, and instantly unleashing full combat power. Miao Luan carefully poured a bottle of translucent liquid from his backpack onto the mechanical life armor. This was the nutrient solution for the armor, also known as the liquid form of spirit stone, or spiritual liquid. As soon as the spiritual liquid was poured on, the mechanical life armor absorbed it immediately, like a parched land soaking up water, absorbing every drop. The armor then expanded and compressed with each breath, growing larger by a circle, and the once dull luster turned a bright silver again. This mechanical life armor has a self-repair function. Being a special life form, it has self-healing abilities as long as it absorbs spiritual liquid, maintaining combat effectiveness unless damage exceeds its limits and kills it. If deprived of spiritual liquid, the armor would starve to death within days. This is something only the Jekka Group can produce. After repairing the armor, Miao Luan took a plain phone from his pocket and dialed a number. A few seconds later, the call connected, and Miao Luan said seriously, "Commander Su, this is Miao Luan. The plan is proceeding smoothly. I'm watching your live news. Good job. How's the combat performance of the mechanical life armor?" Su Jie's voice came through the phone. Using the communication network of the Jekka Group's own satellite system, there was no fear of eavesdropping or sabotage by the beautiful country. Very strong, no, extremely strong. The second-generation mechanical life armor is fully optimized compared to the first generation. Our combat data are recorded in the onboard memory, ready to be exported to computers for further upgrades. However, I believe the armor is already suitable for widespread deployment. Our steel camp can begin re-equipping. Miao Luan's tone heightened as he mentioned the mechanical life armor. That's good. This kind of equipment needs adjustments based on the feedback from frontline users like you. Now that your mission is complete, prepare to return. Yes, sir. After hanging up the phone, Miao Luan stood up and walked over to the floor-to-ceiling window of the building. He coldly watched as teams of National Guard troops cautiously entered. These teams were evacuating the civilians inside the encirclement. Due to the large number of civilians trapped inside, numbering in the tens of thousands, even the 40th Mechanized Infantry Division, with their heavy weapons, dared not open fire recklessly. "Captain, the National Guard downstairs is urging us to surrender. They say if we don't come out, they're going to bomb us. Also, there's a reporter downstairs who wants to interview us." The voice of another team member came through the earpiece, laced with a hint of sarcasm. If they dared to bomb indiscriminately, they wouldn't have waited this long without making a move. Miao Luan glanced down and indeed spotted a news van. God knows how it got in there. Let them come up. Miao Luan thought for a moment and then gave the order to let them through. Soon, a man and a woman got out of the news van. The man carried a camera, and the woman held a microphone, wearing a pencil skirt, and quickly made her way upstairs. The female reporter, about 40 years old, was named Blanca. She was a reporter for the Columbia Broadcasting Company, one of the 3 major television networks in the beautiful country. She had taken the risk of coming here to get first-hand news, and she was able to enter because she had arrived before the National Guard had fully sealed off the area while the fighting was still ongoing and hadn't left since. When Blanca was brought before Miao Luan, she felt a little nervous but more excited. Mr. Miao Luan. Hello, I am Blanca, a reporter from the Columbia Broadcasting Company. Thank you for giving me this interview opportunity. Blanca tried her best to maintain a smile, fearing that any misstep might anger him and lead to violence. Miao Luan was not surprised that she knew his name. He was, after all, a famous figure in the Olympics. Are you on a live broadcast? Miao Luan glanced at the camera and asked. Yes, we are. Is that all right? Blanca was somewhat disappointed, knowing that a live broadcast of her interview would have sky-high ratings, but it seemed unlikely now. In Blanca's view, being granted the interview itself was already very fortunate, let alone a live broadcast. No need to stop, continue. What do you want to ask? Miao Luan waved his hand, indicating that he didn't want her to stop the live broadcast. Blanca's face lit up with joy, and she hurriedly held the microphone in front of Miao Luan. Mr. Miao Luan, what is your response to the National Guard's claim that you are a group of terrorists acting in a targeted attack by the Jekka group against the beautiful country? Miao Luan crossed his legs and said indifferently, Are not the National Guard the real terrorists? We were just eating hot pot and singing songs when they suddenly barged in and started attacking us. Do they expect us to sit back and take it without defending ourselves? Self-defense? Hearing Miao Luan use this term, Blanca's eye twitched. As far as she knew, the death toll among the National Guard at the hands of these genetic warriors was at least over 1,000. Who in their right mind claims self-defense and then kills that many soldiers? This was starting to sound like the plot of an action movie. The commander of the 40th Mechanized Infantry Division, Kulin, has told the media that you are holding a large number of hostages to blackmail the beautiful country. He says he will use all means necessary to eliminate you from Los Angeles. Hostages? Have you seen us take anyone hostage? On the contrary, what I've seen is them persecuting us innocent athletes. In the earlier conflicts, several athletes and civilians were killed because of their actions. They are the ones endangering our safety and freedom, and we demand an explanation. Miao Luan retaliated with strong words. Blanca was stunned. The righteous tone in Miao Luan's voice almost made her believe he was the victim. But in fact, over 1,000 National Guard soldiers had been killed by them. Who was the real perpetrator here? Can you explain why you were armed and why you were equipped with single-soldier mechas? If it's not a purposeful attack, why bring mechas? What single-soldier mechas? Those are just regular weight-training armor to assist our training. We brought them to participate in the Olympics to achieve better results. Is that strange? Blanca almost choked when she heard Miao Luan's blatant lies. She had never encountered such shamelessness before. Not only Blanca, but the live audience in the beautiful country couldn't help but curse. You call those bulletproof mechas weight-training armor? They must think we're blind. Lies like these are just absurd. After asking a few more questions, all answered flawlessly by Miao Luan, it was clear that he was here to cause trouble and certainly wouldn't give honest answers. After sending Blanca and her team away, several genetic warriors nearby couldn't help but laugh. Captain, I bet the commander of the 40th Mechanized Infantry Division will be fuming when he sees this interview. Ha, that has nothing to do with me. Pass the word. Tell the brothers to get ready. As soon as it gets dark, we start the evacuation. Understood. Los Angeles Central Administrative Building. A motorcade rumbled over aggressively, the cars stopping stably downstairs. A team of uniformed, efficient, stern-faced CIA members with earbuds got out of the vehicles. Leading them was none other than the giant hand of the CIA rushing over from Los Angeles, Judith. Who are you? This place. The security guard had just stepped forward when Judith already pulled out her credentials. CIA business. Step aside. Taya? Do you have the authority to? The guard was about to speak when he suddenly felt something pressed against his waist. His body stiffened. There was no need to look. He knew it was a gun pressed against him. The other guards received the same treatment. The team Judith brought were elite operatives from the CIA's field operations, tasked with executing assassination and sabotage missions against political leaders. These guards were no match for them. Move! Judith led the charge, directly breaking into the administrative building. Many of the Los Angeles officials working there were stunned. Some recognized Judith's identity, their faces changing quickly, and immediately and stealthily made phone calls to notify others. But Judith was faster. He split his men into two groups. One took the elevator straight to the 7th floor, the other went up the stairs. The 7th floor was where Los Angeles Mayor Franco's office was located. However, halfway up, the elevator suddenly stopped, and the entire administrative building lost power. Fortunately, Judith had prepared for this. He personally led the team up the stairs. Several staff members attempting to set up roadblocks didn't have time to completely block the way before Judith's team kicked them away. On the 7th floor, Judith had just arrived and briskly walked toward the Los Angeles mayor's office. A man in a suit hurriedly ran over, blocking the door. "What are you doing?" "I am Mayor Franco's secretary. If you have business, talk to me. The mayor is not feeling well today. There's no one in the office. Whether someone's there or not, we'll check ourselves," Judith said coldly. A field operative stepped forward and instantly twisted the secretary's arm behind his back, making him cry out in pain with tears and snot. Bam! The door was kicked open, and Judith led his team straight inside. They caught Mayor Franco of Los Angeles and California Governor Kurt red-handed, both disguised with large sunglasses and baseball caps, intending to flee. The atmosphere became somewhat awkward. As their eyes met, Judith stepped forward. "Where are you two planning to go?" "I just arrived. And you're leaving? Am I that unwelcome?" Franco coughed dryly and said, "We were just about to conduct an inspection downstairs. It's urgent. Director Judith, please wait here. We'll come back to talk to you in a bit." Governor Kurt also spoke up. "With such a big incident happening in Los Angeles, we have to handle it. Director Judith will be right back." As they spoke, the two tried to leave the office. But Judith was not giving them face, even if they held high positions in California. "Gentlemen, I'm afraid you can't leave at the moment. We need you to assist in our investigation. Come with us to New York." Upon hearing this, Franco and Kurt's faces turned ugly. Franco pointed at Judith and said, "Judith, does the CIA dare to intervene domestically? What right do you have to do this? If someone should intervene, it should be the FBI. If you leave now, I can pretend nothing happened. Otherwise, think about the consequences." Kurt's tone was equally threatening, his face dark. Judith's smile faded, and she snorted coldly. "The chaos you have caused in Los Angeles, if left unchecked, who knows what kind of havoc you would wreak. Today, you are coming with me to CIA headquarters, and no one can stop it." Just as she finished speaking, the CIA field agents behind her stepped forward and handcuffed Franco and Kurt without expression. "Take them away." Judith waved her hand, and the group quickly left without any delay. "Judith, you're dead. Your position as director is over?" Kurt shouted while struggling, only to receive 2 punches from a field agent. Bang bang, calming him down but not silencing his curses. "You don't decide whether I stay as director." Judith lit a cigarette and said coldly, "The CIA directly answers to the president. The funds are requested by the president from Congress and do not need reporting to other departments. There is no higher authority, and the director is directly appointed by the president. Her status is equivalent to an ancient emperor's close eunuch, truly one of their own. As long as the president remains in power, helping him withstand the pressure, her power would not be affected. Of course, there is also a possibility that she would be abandoned later, thrown out as a scapegoat. But Judith had to do this because if she didn't, she might not even last until later, facing the possibility of the president dismissing her at any time. At the entrance of the administrative building, Judith had just stepped out when sirens were heard. A number of police officers drove their police cars over with sirens blaring. They were the state police, clearly belonging to the state government. And that wasn't all. Judith also saw her old adversary, the FBI, driving over. The CIA and FBI often clashed because their functions frequently overlapped. For example, in many transnational crimes, the FBI recruited many overseas federal officers to investigate in order to obtain more information about the criminals. The CIA, seeking recognition from the president, was not content with merely gathering intelligence and often competed for jurisdiction. Block the car and have the helicopter over there take the people away. Judith gave the order. Several field agents stuffed Franco and Kurt into the car and drove away quickly. Meanwhile, Judith and the other field agents directly parked the car across the road, blocking the way of those police cars and the FBI. One by one, the state police got out of their cars, holding long and short guns. The FBI's SWAT team also rushed over, wearing tactical uniforms, aggressively. CIA, what are you doing? You have no right or reason to arrest the mayor and governor of Los Angeles. Get out of the way immediately. You don't have domestic law enforcement rights. You are already violating national laws. Bring the mayor and governor back immediately. The state police and FBI saw Judith and other CIA members shouting curses angrily, and some even raised their weapons. But the CIA didn't back down, raising their weapons as well, and both sides were in an armed standoff on the street. Do you know what you're doing? Do you want to commit treason? Judith seemed not to hear. Instead suddenly shouted loudly, shaking the scene and stunning the state police and FBI. You can't be unaware of the situation in the Los Angeles Olympic Village. Your good governor and good mayor are plunging our country into negative international headlines. One wrong move and it'll be an all-out war with the JECA group. Do you all love war that much? Spitting out the cigarette in his mouth, Judith pointed at the state police and FBI, roaring, "If it really comes to war with the JECA group, I'll have the president order you all to the front lines to face those genetic warriors. If you survive, it'll be considered your good luck." Arrogant, domineering, audacious. The CIA field agents all seemed invigorated, feeling it was worth the risk to stand with such a superior. The state police swallowed, some were intimidated. Do you think being loud makes you right? We are enforcing national regulations, not dealing with other issues. Move aside now. The FBI wasn't so easily intimidated. They reacted quickly, rushing forward, pushing the CIA agents or driving to try to forcefully move the blocking vehicles. Stop them. I'll take responsibility if anything happens. Judith rolled up his sleeves and punched an FBI officer in the face, causing his face to blossom with blood. Seeing their chief in action, the other CIA agents couldn't hold back anymore. They charged forward, engaging in a fight with the FBI SWAT team. The state police were dumbfounded. Being the lowest in authority, they couldn't decide who to help and just stood by dumbly. Fortunately, although the FBI and CIA were fighting, they knew to hold back, only using fists and feet. No one drew their guns. A fistfight was just minor conflict, but using guns would be a different matter. After tensome minutes, the bruised and battered CIA and FBI separated, glaring at each other with gritted teeth. Ultimately, the CIA's hand-to-hand combat skills were higher, as they often carried out dangerous missions. Many had been through special forces training, fewer in number but victorious. Buzzing. Judith's phone suddenly rang. Judith wiped his nosebleed, seeing it was a call from a subordinate. As soon as the call connected, the subordinate's panicked voice came through. "Boss, bad news. They sent people through armed helicopter ahead of us. Franco and Kurt have been taken." Plop. Judith's phone slipped from his hand. Los Angeles. Night. The sun slowly sets, and this second-largest city in the beautiful country grows increasingly chaotic. The natural camouflage of the black skin makes them even more hidden at night, happily calling friends to join in $0 purchases. At this time, the police and the National Guard in Los Angeles have no energy to control the situation because their forces are concentrated near the Olympic Village. Compared to the blacks, those 20 genetic warriors are the real threat. The evacuation work is still in full swing. Since the genetic warriors did not stop it, most of the residents near the Olympic Village streets have successfully fled. This greatly boosts the confidence of the National Guard. As long as there are no hostages, their heavy weapons will have no restrictions. They plan to launch an assault in half an hour to completely take down these damn thugs. However, the genetic warriors did not sit idle. At 8:15 in the evening, under Miao Luan's leadership, the genetic warriors gathered and moved towards the outskirts of the Olympic Village street. Everyone was disguised, and the night was the best camouflage. They did not attack along the way but instead reached a manhole cover. When Miao Luan lifted the cover and climbed inside, someone was already waiting there. That person was a member of Tijuana, and this was one of the underground smuggling tunnels of the Jekka group. The group twisted and turned underground, and when they re-emerged, Miao Luan and his men were already outside Los Angeles. They got into a car that was prepared in advance. As the vehicle started, Miao Luan and his men sped towards Mexico. The Mexican border is only over an hour's drive from Los Angeles, which is why Miao Luan and his men chose to cause trouble here. Not even half an hour after Miao Luan and his men left, inside the Olympic Village in Los Angeles, a large number of National Guard tanks and armored vehicles drove into the encirclement, and armed helicopters in the sky were fully focused, ready to tear the enemy apart with machine guns and rocket launchers. But when the National Guard turned the place upside down, they did not see any traces of the genetic warriors. Only then did they finally realize that the genetic warriors had escaped the encirclement. The omnipotent media quickly broadcasted the news, and viewers who saw the news cursed loudly. Killing people in Los Angeles and then escaping, the Los Angeles Police and the 40th Mechanized Infantry Division were called incompetent, useless, and idiots. Inside the temporary command center of the 40th Mechanized Infantry Division, the commander of the 40th Mechanized Infantry Division, Cullen, had an extremely ugly expression as he listened to the report from his staff. How did they escape? With such tight lockdown, find them immediately, Cullen roared. So many National Guard soldiers had died. If he could have killed or captured those genetic warriors and reported the achievement to his superiors, he might still have had some wiggle room to keep his position. But the fact that they escaped has cost him his face. He had no way to explain, and his position as division commander was certainly at its end. Therefore, hearing this news, Cullen could not help but fly into a rage. The staff officer nodded and said, "Commander, we are tracking the whereabouts of those genetic warriors. The soldiers have found the underground tunnel leading out of the city, but it will take time to locate their position. We are working with the police for the investigation, but it would be best to have satellite assistance for reconnaissance. I will help you coordinate the satellites. We have connections." At that moment, a voice came through. The governor of California, Turt, walked in. He had been rescued by the 40th Mechanized Infantry Division's armed helicopter, worried that the CIA guys would make a move, so he stayed directly at the command center. "Governor." Cullen felt ashamed when he saw Turt. The genetic warriors had slipped from their grasp and successfully escaped. Those genetic warriors must be dealt with at any cost. Turt's face was grim, his voice resolute, and his attitude firm. "You all leave." After clearing the other staff from the command room, Turt sat down, glaring at Cullen, and said through gritted teeth, "How could you let 20 men escape with tens of thousands of soldiers surrounding them? How am I supposed to explain this to our backers?" Cullen lowered his head. He knew exactly who Turt was referring to as the backers, the California Consortium and the Democratic Party they supported. Due to the upcoming election, the National Party and the Republican Party were fighting intensely, overtly, and covertly. The California Consortium needed to start a war to sell arms, and the war would also lower the support rate of the current president, Lawrence. But all of this depended on their ability to deal with the genetic warriors. Otherwise, they would be utterly embarrassed. Though their goal might be achieved, they would certainly lose their positions and be forced to resign to appease the public. Those genetic warriors used the tunnel. They had a premeditated plan, bypassing our lockdown. Cullen defended himself while secretly thinking that if Turt had not been so concerned about casualties, they might have already killed those genetic warriors with heavy firepower. Turt glared at Cullen, knowing it was not the time for blame shifting. He picked up the phone to call his contacts, using satellite resources for reconnaissance, waiting for updates from the investigation below. Half an hour passed by while they waited. Efforts paid off when the staff officer rushed back in. "Commander, we have traced the genetic warriors. They are escaping towards the Mexican border. 15 minutes ago, they refueled at the border and entered Mexico. Satellite tracking shows they are now resting in Camp Town, across the border." Camptown is a small town on the border of Mexico with a population of just over 20,000, located only a few kilometers away from the beautiful country. Upon hearing this, Cullen's expression darkened. What? They've entered Mexico. Damn, those damn bastards. Mexico is not like their California, where they can do as they please. Their 40th Mechanized Infantry Division can run wild locally, but they are helpless against Mexico. This is a serious problem. Commander, why don't we first issue a document to Mexico, requesting to join forces with Mexico to capture that group of genetic warriors and then deport them back? The staff officer proposed, noting that the beautiful country and Mexico have signed an extradition treaty. As long as they capture the individuals, sending them back to the beautiful country would be a proper resolution. Kurt shook his head and spoke. It's too late. Mexico's efficiency is too low. By the time they agree, the targets could disappear. Moreover, the Mexican officials are in collusion with the Tijuana Group. If we go into Mexico to strike against the Tijuana Group, we will face obstruction and cover-ups from the local officials. They won't cooperate with us to capture the genetic warriors. Kurt, being a senior member of the beautiful country, understood the status of the Tijuana Group in Mexico very well. The Tijuana Group has established a dense intelligence network across Mexico, from the police stations to high-ranking government officials serving as shields for them, to ordinary citizens voluntarily protecting the Tijuana Group by reporting and signaling. The wealthy Tijuana Group, to ensure the stability of their smuggling trade lines, often uses money to corrupt Mexico's powerful departments. Many influential officials or police officers have received varying degrees of bribes from the Tijuana Group. This has deeply entrenched the Tijuana Group locally. Additionally, the presence of the Tijuana Group has provided many jobs and economic contributions to the area, making it impossible for Mexico to agree to help them capture the genetic warriors. Everyone knows that the genetic warriors are exclusive to the JECA Group, and the Tijuana Group is a subordinate organization serving the JECA Group. Damn, they got away. Cullen angrily slammed his fist on the table, unable to vent the frustration in his heart. At this moment, Kurt suddenly thought of something, got up, and made a phone call. A few minutes later, Kurt returned and said something that shocked Cullen profoundly. Cullen, dispatch an armored regiment into Camptown, Mexico. You must capture those 20 genetic warriors. What? Cullen was shocked, his face full of disbelief. However, entering another country without permission is a serious violation of borders, which could lead to significant conflict and even war. Although there have been calls from political circles in the past for the beautiful country's military to enter Mexico to combat drug dealers and the Tijuana Group, these were only appeals. Despite Mexico being one of the beautiful country's largest trading partners, Mexico is not a subordinate of the beautiful country, nor is it like Canada, Australia, Japan, or Korea, which are subservient to the beautiful country. It is an independent sovereign nation. Since it is a sovereign country, the army of the beautiful country has no right to enter Mexico to carry out any military tasks. Except for the past wars between Mexico and the beautiful country, if the beautiful country's army were allowed in during peacetime, Mexico would be deemed incompetent. Moreover, given the historical grudges between the two countries, much of Mexico's territory was forcibly taken by the beautiful country. If the beautiful country's army entered, it might be viewed as them coveting Mexican land, causing sharp diplomatic turmoil. Don't worry, we have our own national circumstances. It's not the first time we've done something like this. Remember the Panama Wars? We did similar things back then. Kurt patted Cullen's shoulder, referring to the Panama War in the 1990s. In 1903, the beautiful country forced the newly independent Panama to sign an unequal treaty, obtaining the right to dig the Panama Canal. A 16.1-kilometer area on the west bank of the canal was designated as the Canal Zone, establishing a southern command, prohibiting Panamanians from entering, and the Canal Zone became a state within a state. Later, due to the long-term efforts of the Panamanians, the two countries signed a new canal treaty, stipulating that after December 31, 1999, the canal would be completely managed by Panama. However, the beautiful country was unwilling to let go. The political, economic, and strategic importance of the Panama Canal was too significant. In order to maintain its ownership of the canal, the beautiful country used various means, multiple times supporting military coups to get pro-beautiful country puppet regimes in power. After the coup failures, with the deadline for returning the canal approaching, the beautiful country stopped pretending and directly increased its military presence in Panama, airlifting tanks, armored vehicles, and armed helicopters. Using sensational excuses like combating drug smuggling, they brazenly sent troops into Panama and overthrew the existing regime. You must act quickly. The financier will help settle the aftermath. Move fast. Kurt revealed a phone number, and Kulin immediately understood. This was a key figure in the Democratic Party. If they were willing to help him evade punishment and protect him, he could later use excuses like accidentally crossing the border, not noticing the boundary marker, or getting lost to brush aside the matter. But if he didn't act now, they surely wouldn't put in any effort to help. Given his poor performance thus far, he might be doomed to a dismal exit. Thinking of this, Kulin took a deep breath and said, "I understand what needs to be done. I will arrange it right away. I will ensure all those genetic warriors are captured before dawn tomorrow." After speaking, Kulin turned and left. He had big things to do. Mexico, Camp Town. Late at night, in a building, Miao Luan and a group of genetic warriors were having a meeting. "Major, there has been no movement yet. I guess the beautiful country won't come." A genetic warrior leaned on his hand and said, "Do you think the beautiful country doesn't know our whereabouts? We stopped at a border convenience store and gas station before entering Mexico, and lingered under surveillance for a while. If they haven't detected that, they are unworthy of the title of world police. They probably don't dare to cross the border casually. After all, this is Mexico. If they send in troops, it's completely different from sending small groups of special forces and agents." The genetic warriors discussed among themselves. Many of them thought the beautiful country had given up the pursuit. Miao Luan didn't speak, constantly checking the text messages on his phone. At 2:21 a.m., Miao Luan's phone suddenly vibrated, receiving a text message. "Stop sleeping, time to work." Miao Luan raised his head and called out to several dozing genetic warriors. The originally bored genetic warriors were first stunned by the words, then quickly reacted. "Major, has the beautiful country really sent in troops?" A genetic warrior shouted excitedly, with no fear, only excitement. "An armored regiment, a lot of tanks and armored vehicles and armed helicopters. Quite a lineup. Our preparations weren't in vain. Notify the mechanical brigade brothers. Leave those big guys to them." Miao Luan walked out while giving instructions, a cruel smile on his lips. "Since they dared to come, let's show them our enthusiasm and make sure they don't go back." 2:58 a.m. The residents of Camp Town were awakened by a series of massive roars. They looked outside their windows to see a mighty armored force heading towards the town. These armored vehicles bore the flag and numbers indicating they belonged to the 40th Mechanized Infantry Division, 7th Cavalry Regiment of the beautiful country. Of course, the main force wasn't real cavalry but an armored regiment. Those massive steel beasts, M1A2 main battle tanks, M2 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, Apache armed helicopters, and so on, with about 2,800 soldiers. The beautiful country has attacked. The entire Camp Town became chaotic instantly. The local police offered no resistance and fled long before the armored regiment entered the town. They could barely handle drug dealers, let alone face an armored regiment from the beautiful country. Staying to resist would be meaningless. This 7th Cavalry Regiment was the elite force of the 40th Mechanized Infantry Division, led by Kulin in person. He aimed to kill or capture all the genetic warriors to redeem himself. "Commander, we are about to enter the town. We are dispersing our formation to surround the entire town." An officer came to report. Kulin stared ahead at Camp Town. The Mexicans must have received the news of their intrusion by now, causing utter chaos and outrage. He had to solve the genetic warriors quickly and return to the beautiful country. If the Mexican army arrived, even if uncertain whether they'd dare shoot, things could spiral out of control. He needed a swift victory. Have the troops enter the town. Engage and kill any genetic warriors. Kjulin's eyes were cold as he waved his hand, giving the order. Armored vehicles and tanks entered Camp Town, a small town with a population of just over 20,000. The residents had never seen such a scene, and they huddled in their houses, trembling as the beautiful country soldiers searched the town. Meanwhile, on the south side of Camp Town, there was a logistics warehouse. Due to its border location, many large shipments briefly stopped here before crossing. This logistics warehouse had been secretly purchased by the Tijuana Group a week ago, and under the pretense of transporting large engineering equipment, many oversized parts were moved here. As the 7th Cavalry Regiment of the beautiful country entered Camp Town, huge tarpaulins inside the warehouse were removed, revealing steel and biomechanical beasts larger than main battle tanks. Spotlights came on, and like awakening giants, they slowly moved their 8 massive legs, stepping outside. These were 2 mechanical armor companies. In the Jekka Group's mechanical brigade, each mechanical formation had 3 Spider main battle mechas, and each mechanical company had 3 formations plus 1 command mecha for a total of 10 Spider main battle mechas. 2 mechanical companies meant there were 20 Spider main battle mechas here altogether. 3 M1A2 main battle tanks, accompanied by infantry, were heading towards the logistics warehouse area. Just as they reached the entrance, they encountered the 2 mechanical armor companies emerging from the warehouse. The atmosphere was deathly silent. The 3 M1A2 main battle tanks braked instantly, as the accompanying National Guard soldiers widened their mouths, faces pale, bodies trembling. 20 Spider mechas stood in a row. The scene was like 20 tigers staring at deer, causing all the tank and infantry members to feel utter despair and collapse. There was no way they could fight against so many Spider main battle mechas. The next moment, all the M1A2 main battle tanks frantically reversed, and the infantry scattered like unleashed hounds, firing not a single shot as they turned and fled, wishing they had more legs to run faster. Bang! The top-mounted 203mm main gun of a Spider main battle mecha slowly turned, aiming at an M1A2 main battle tank. As the muzzle flashed, a deafening explosion occurred, and the M1A2 main battle tank was instantly dismantled, blown into pieces. Nearby, a dozen National Guard soldiers fell like flowers in a storm, their limbs shattered and scattered. Guys, let's hunt. Hao Guyu, piloting the A-180 Spider main battle mecha, due to his outstanding performance in the last Southeast Asia campaign, had not only become an ace pilot but was also promoted to the rank of major, responsible for leading these 2 mechanical armor companies. Upon Hao Guyu's command, the Spider main battle mechas made their way outside, dispersing onto the streets. Those armored vehicles and even the armed helicopters in the sky were their hunting targets. The 7th Cavalry Division, which planned to use heavy firepower against the genetic warriors, now found itself facing even stronger firepower and thicker armor from the Spider main battle mechas. At that moment, the roles of attacker and defender were reversed. Where's the artillery fire coming from? Have you found the genetic warriors? Outside Camp Town, Kjulin instinctively looked around upon hearing the artillery fire, but he couldn't see anything in the night, and there was no report over the comms. You guys, go check it out over there. Kjulin dispatched a reconnaissance team, directing their wheeled armored reconnaissance vehicle toward the source of the artillery fire, also instructing an armed helicopter to head for reconnaissance. Meanwhile, several Spider main battle mechas were already advancing into the streets of Camp Town. The Spider main battle mecha with the designation A-180, piloted by Hao Guyu, moved onto the main road of Camp Town. Here, a tank company and 2 infantry companies were stationed. The tank company had 14 M1A2 main battle tanks, 1 M1283 armored personnel carrier, 1 M1078 medium truck, 2 M1280 tactical vehicles, with a total strength of 63 personnel. The infantry companies had 2 M1283 armored personnel carriers, 28 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, 2 M1078 medium trucks, 4 M1280 tactical vehicles, with a total strength of 366 personnel. Together, they formed a standard cavalry armored battalion, currently patrolling the streets, while the infantry conducting house-to-house searches. the arrival of the Spider main battle mecha went unnoticed. Even though there were armed helicopters overhead, the mecha's camouflage and radar evasion systems made it difficult for the Longbow millimeter-wave radar to accurately detect it. In the darkness, the Spider main battle mecha successfully reached the flank of the cavalry armored battalion. Like a spider lurking in the web, Hao Guyu waited patiently. From the window of a nearby building, a 13 or 14-year-old Mexican girl peeked out curiously, and she saw a huge silhouette. Under the faint moonlight, it was a 12-meter-tall, 8-legged metal behemoth, towering over her house. The girl quickly covered her mouth to stifle a scream, her wide eyes glowing as she recognized the Spider main battle mecha from the Jekka Group's elite forces. "Go! Take out those beautiful country thugs!" She whispered a cheer and made a fist-pumping gesture, knowing well the historical animosities between Mexico and the beautiful country. Hao Guyu raised one of the mecha's metal legs and waved it at the girl, closing her window. The upcoming battle was not suitable for children to view. At this point, the cavalry armored battalion had advanced into the optimal attack range of the Spider main battle mecha. Hao Guyu did not hesitate any longer. The mecha's 8 legs strode forward, like a giant spider leaping from its web to capture its prey, charging fiercely into the streets. As the countless soldiers of the armored cavalry battalion watched in stunned amazement, the Spider main battle mecha's 230mm machine guns vibrated violently, spitting flames nearly 2 meters long, firing shells roughly the size of beer bottles at an initial velocity of 1,521 meters per second. To the left and right, tracer rounds lightened the night as the machine guns pounded. The attack targets, 2 M1A2 main battle tanks, had their thin top armor pierced, the shells exploding inside, killing the crews. One of the M1A2 tanks had its ammunition rack detonated, the turret blown sky-high by the internal blast, crushing 3 National Guard soldiers under its weight, leaving them mangled and bloodied. Boom! The next moment, Hao Guyu drove the Spider main battle mecha into the middle of the cavalry armored battalion, splitting it into 2. The mecha's 8 12.7mm heavy machine guns and 4 20mm machine guns burst into a hail of fire, casings raining down like a storm. Beautiful country soldiers were torn apart by machine gun fire, heads exploding like overripe watermelons, bodies sliced in half, limbs shattered. A 12.7mm bullet didn't allow for mere injury. Even hits to extremities could sever limbs entirely. Blood from severed arteries bled out quickly, making medical aid nearly impossible to reach in the chaos, leading to deaths from hemorrhagic shock. In comparison, those hit in the chest or higher by the heavy machine guns were spared prolonged suffering, dying almost instantly and escaping much torment. Their last sight the darkness before they went to meet their God, whether they liked it or not. Boom! 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 As the dull thunder of the 20mm machine guns tore through, a Bradley infantry fighting vehicle turned its turret toward the Spider main battle mecha. Despite its substantial armor protection, including 6.35mm steel armor on the outer layer, 25.4mm gap armor, another 6.35mm steel layer, an 88.9mm gap, and finally a 25.4mm aluminum rear plate, totaling 152.4 millimeters. It was no match for the mecha's 20mm armor-piercing incendiary rounds. The high-velocity cannon fire tore through the Bradley's multi-layered defenses, instantly killing the crew. In the rear, 8 mounted infantry troops had no chance. All were slaughtered as the shells penetrated, turning the vehicle's interior into a coffin of shattered flesh and gore, their cries echoing as their lives were snuffed out. Another Bradley infantry fighting vehicle saw several vehicles being blown up and chose to fight back bravely, controlling the vehicle-mounted M242 25mm chain gun and unleashing a fierce barrage at the Spider main battle mecha. Tracers drew purple chains of light, hitting the Spider main battle mecha with a rapid crackling sound. However, to their despair, the defense of the Spider main battle mecha was so strong that the 25mm machine gun fire felt like scratching an itch, not even penetrating the exterior armor. The bullets either deflected off the sloped armor or turned into lumps of metal falling to the ground. The Spider main battle mecha, capable of effectively resisting even tank main guns, was an impossible target to deal with using a 25mm gun. As a reward for bravery, Haoguyu's mecha fired its 203mm main gun, sending a shell to dismantle the Bradley, leaving the crew members unrecognizable, their remains shredded. An M1A2 main battle tank fired armor-piercing rounds in return, but unless it landed dozens of hits in succession, it was difficult to destroy the Spider main battle mecha. Among the 14 M1A2 main battle tanks, within just 1 minute, Haoguyu had already destroyed 7 of them. In the complex urban battlefield, Haoguyu couldn't target everything, especially smaller infantry targets hiding behind buildings and cover, using rocket launchers and single-soldier anti-tank missiles for ambushes. The urban combat environment really suited infantry anti-armor tactics, where close engagement ranges and the dead corners of streets and buildings provided prime spots for infantry to ambush tanks successfully. Though they appeared less threatening than tank targets, they had many anti-armor weapons. With the beautiful country's ample financial resources, their troops were well equipped with these weapons. Dozens of rockets and anti-tank missiles hitting their target consecutively posed a significant threat even to the Spider main battle mecha. "You bastard! Take this shell!" A National Guard soldier aimed his single-soldier anti-tank missile at the Spider main battle mecha, ready to fire. But before he could pull the trigger, his expression froze, and his head rolled off his neck. A silver-white figure flashed by, 2 gleaming swords flashing in the cold light, slicing down National Guard soldiers hiding in buildings and corners like chopping vegetables. Or it used its shoulder-mounted heavy machine gun to quickly eliminate threatening targets. The genetic warriors arrived to support, wearing second-generation life breeding equipment, centering around the Spider main battle mecha, continuously slaughtering enemy infantry within a 200-meter range. Any armored vehicles capable of threatening the genetic warriors were identified and targeted individually by the Spider main battle mecha, working seamlessly together. This kind of synchronized mech infantry coordination was frequently practiced in joint drills between the Steel Camp and Mechanical Brigade. Their coordinated efforts made the battle notably smooth. The seemingly powerful cavalry armored battalion, with over 400 troops and dozens of armored vehicles, was crushed in no time. Once casualties reached a critical point, the National Guard's morale plummeted, and everyone abandoned resistance, fleeing. But in the urban combat environment, while it posed some restrictions for the Spider main battle mecha, it was even more limiting for tanks and armored vehicles. They couldn't escape the Spider main battle mecha, whose 8 legs offered superior mobility compared to their tracks, easily catching up and turning those expensive armored vehicles into steel coffins. Ordinary infantry had no power to resist the near-invincible genetic warriors, wearing mechanical spider gear and sprinting at over 200 kilometers per hour. For infantry, the city was a natural battlefield. For genetic warriors, it was an open buffet to feast at will as long as there was no heavy firepower, no artillery coverage, no machine gun rakes, no high-explosive precision strikes, making them almost without predators. As 3 genetic warriors and 1 Spider main battle mecha chased and struck, screams and cries of agony filled the air, with blood and severed limbs strewn across the ground. At this time, conflict raged not only in this area but throughout Camp Town. 1 Spider main battle mecha after another hunted the armored forces in the darkness, annihilating those steel behemoths one after another. Bang! 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 On the north side of Camp Town, on the highest 5-story building, a B air defense mecha rained shell casing like drops of water. Its 4 twin 35mm high-altitude artillery pieces atop the mecha spewed gigantic tongues of fire, while the legs launched B needle short-range air defense missiles to prey upon the Sky Dome. In 3 other directions of the town, similar arrangements with 3 more B air defense mechas constructed an impermeable aerial network, occasionally downing Apache armed helicopters to prevent them from interfering with the Spider main battle mechas. In the southern granary warehouse of the town, National Guard soldiers fled into the building, cornered by the pursuing Spider main battle mecha, only to encounter a Scorpion Flame Sprayer mecha. As the Scorpion Flame Sprayer mecha's tail curved upwards, a fierce dragon of fire spewed from its tail end's nozzle. Fire surged into the granary, eliciting inhuman screams from within, caused by burnt vocal cords. On the eastern side of the town, 2 fly rocket mechas crouched on the ground, their 48 tube rocket launch nests facing different directions, assisted by released eye worms to pinpoint large enemy groups outside the town. When everything was adjusted, piercing whistles echoed. One by one, 220mm rockets soared into the sky amidst flames, like fiery meteors tearing through the night sky, flying towards the outskirts of the town. In Camp Town, 20 main battle mechas wreaked havoc, including 12 Spider main battle mechas, 4 B air defense mechas, 2 Scorpion flame sprayer mechas, and 2 Fly rocket mechas. They, along with 20 genetic warriors in mechanical life armor, formed a killing matrix, rapidly destroying the 7th Cavalry Regiment. Outside Camp Town, the 2nd Battalion encountered enemy Spider main battle mechas, requesting support. Damn it, how many times do I have to repeat? What do we have to hold our ground? You come and fight these mechas. I guarantee you'll scream for your mom on the spot. We need to strategically retreat. Oh God, those monsters are coming up. Woo-woo, Mom, we can't go home. We're surrounded. God bless. ZZZ. Boom. Inside the command vehicle, Kulon's eyes were glazed, listening to the urgent messages from various units in Camp Town. Many were the last communications sent out in desperate moments of death. Trap. This is a trap. Kulon's lips trembled, murmuring to himself, somewhat at a loss. This was a trap set by the Jekka group. They must have anticipated that they would break into Mexico, so they deployed Spider main battle mechas here in advance. This kind of powerful land battle mecha vehicle, showcased in Southeast Asia, was extremely effective against armored units. The steel beasts of the 7th Cavalry Regiment could hold an advantage against genetic warriors, but against Spider main battle mechas, they turned from hunters into prey, completely becoming the hunted side, which was the main reason for the rapid collapse of the situation. Commander, I just reported our situation to the country. They want us to retreat immediately. We've lost this battle. Let's go back and request national support and call in the Air Force. The staff officer hurried over, vigorously shaking Kulon's shoulders, trying to bring him back to his senses. Right, we have to go, we can't stay here. Kulon suddenly snapped back to reality, issuing orders in quick succession. He didn't want to lose his life here in vain. Even if he got dismissed and imprisoned after returning, it was better than sacrificing himself here. But by this time, it was too late for evacuation. The National Guard outside the town had just started their vehicles and tanks when dense whistles filled the sky. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. One by one, 220mm rockets fell, their TNT exploding inside, with powerful shockwaves and scorching temperatures sweeping in all directions. Trucks and armored cars were overturned, with wheels spinning towards the sky. Tanks were directly hit, also unable to escape destruction. The fragile infantry were like blades of grass in a storm, their internal organs shattered by the shockwaves or cut to pieces by shrapnel, with body parts flying dozens of meters away. As far as the eye could see, dust and smoke billowed outside Camp Town, with the windows of the residents' houses on the edge of town shattered by the shockwaves. Each 220mm rocket weighed 280 kilograms, while a regular 155mm howitzer shell only weighed 50 kilograms, showing the immense power of these rockets. A single shot with a warhead weighing over 100 kilograms could cover the area of a football field with a dense shrapnel impact zone. Moreover, these were not single rockets, but 96 rockets launched by 2 Fly rocket mechas. The resulting devastation was unimaginable. Unfortunately, Kulon's command vehicle was directly hit by a 220mm rocket. The commander of the 40th Mechanized Infantry Division of the National Guard was thus turned into fragments amidst the artillery fire. When the shelling ended, the National Guard outside the town had been mostly destroyed. Subsequently, the Spider main battle mechas and genetic warriors inside the town ended their battle, pinpointing and eliminating any remaining enemies outside the town, wiping out any living enemy forces. After finishing all this, it had taken less than 20 minutes. The genetic warriors climbed onto the backs of the Spider main battle mechas, and the mechas quickly retreated under the cover of night. Once the battle quieted down, the Mexican citizens of Camp Town cautiously poked their heads out, only to see the outskirts of the town littered with the wreckage of armored cars and tanks, the shattered bodies of beautiful country soldiers, and a few soldiers hiding among the residents and in concealed places, driven insane with fear. At daybreak, after a count, out of the 2,800 National Guards who invaded Mexico, fewer than 15 survived. The outrageous atrocity, during the pursuit mission of the 7th Cavalry Battalion, they were ambushed by a meticulously arranged trap. The sudden appearance of dozens of Spider main battle mechas resulted in heavy casualties for the 7th Cavalry Regiment. The Spider main battle mechas struck again, and the beautiful country's army faced a devastating defeat. The death of the commander of the 40th Mechanized Infantry Division marks the highest-ranking officer killed in action of the beautiful country in decades. When the news of the destruction of the 7th Cavalry Regiment in Camptown spread, the whole world, unsurprisingly, was in an uproar. The death of 2,800 National Guard members is a staggering figure enough to shock the beautiful country. In all the wars the beautiful country has initiated in recent decades, never has there been a single battle with so many soldiers killed at once. The revelation of this news by the media also sparked widespread discussion globally. The Jekka group is really ruthless. They actually dared to ambush the beautiful country's army and showed no mercy. Those National Guards are foolish, and their commander is utterly incompetent, stepping directly into the trap set by others and sacrificing 2,800 soldiers' lives for nothing. The atrocities committed by the Jekka group are heinous and must not be forgiven lightly. We want war. I think they deserved it. The beautiful country ignored other nations' territories and trespassed into them, which is an extremely serious provocation in any country, and being annihilated was justified. They have bullied other countries so often, thinking that no one would dare to confront them. That's why they dared to intrude into Mexican territory. But they didn't expect that the Jekka group wouldn't give them any face and ruthlessly killed them. The root cause of this event lies with the beautiful country. If they hadn't intentionally captured genetic warriors, there wouldn't have been so many subsequent issues. The genetic warriors were not violating any rules by participating in the Los Angeles Olympics. It was the beautiful country's imbalance that led to this tragedy. The methods of the Jekka group are too excessive. What wrong did those ordinary soldiers do to deserve being killed? What wrong did the genetic warriors do? What wrongs did the civilians who died because of the wars initiated by the beautiful country do? In conclusion, the whole world was stunned by this major news. Especially the Western countries, seeing the humiliation suffered by their leader, all found it unbelievable that someone dared to provoke the beautiful country like this, as if they had a death wish. But when they saw it was the Jekka group that acted, oh, then it was no big deal. Because the Jekka group had never taken the beautiful country seriously. The whole world was watching the beautiful country's reaction, having taken such a hit from the Jekka group. Likely the beautiful country would retaliate. However, the beautiful country had not yet started its retaliation when Mexico's condemnation came forth first. The current president of Mexico, Manuel, openly called out, angrily accusing the beautiful country. The beautiful country has flagrantly violated our territory, trampling on our national sovereignty and dignity. The beautiful country must give us an explanation, or we will never let this go. The people of Mexico also spontaneously organized marches and protests against the beautiful country's cross-border military action. Due to the historical grievances between the two countries, in the 19th century, the beautiful country seized over 2 million square kilometers of Mexican territory through unequal treaties. Nearly more than half of Mexico's land was annexed by the beautiful country. The seized lands were rich in oil fields and mineral resources, while the unseized lands were relatively poor, with 5/6 being mountains, highlands, and deserts. Many people were worried that history would repeat itself due to the beautiful country's renewed aggression, and their own country would become a target for the beautiful country's covetousness. Of course, many Mexican citizens were also full of anticipation about this. Many Mexicans detested the beautiful country for ceding their land, but they also hated the beautiful country for not annexing them, as they could have led a carefree life. This is evident from the number of illegal immigrants from Mexico to the beautiful country each year, where they try every possible way to get to the beautiful country. Digging tunnels, hiding in trucks, riding trains, crossing rivers, and even traversing desolate death deserts. For those living at the bottom of Mexican society, their sense of belonging to their country is very low, but their sentiments toward the beautiful country are even worse, as the powerful neighbor has made them so poor. For example, the North American Free Trade Agreement, which took effect on January 1, 1994, allowed the free flow of goods between the two countries, and Mexican agriculture was the first to be severely impacted. The mechanized agriculture of the beautiful country directly crushed traditional Mexican agriculture, with low-priced agricultural products causing massive bankruptcies and unemployment among farmers. After the collapse of Mexican agriculture, the beautiful country's agricultural products began to increase in price, exceeding the prices of the original agricultural products, harvesting Mexico's wealth. These unemployed farmers, who fell back into poverty from the middle class, many turned to the drug industry, and their hearts also harbored seeds of hatred for the beautiful country. As the wave of opposition surged in Mexico, the current president of the beautiful country, Lawrence, also gave a televised speech. Regarding the Camptown incident, I never authorized any military missions of the 40th Mechanized Infantry Division. They acted under the direction of Governor Kurt. But no matter what, our soldiers cannot die in vain. I announced that all fallen soldiers will be compensated by the country, and at the same time, Mexico must hand over all genetic warriors responsible for crimes against humanity within a week and dismantle the Tijuana Group, or they will face our strictest sanctions. Lawrence's words caused quite a stir in the international community. Even to put pressure on Mexico, troops were mobilized towards the Mexican border, sharpening their knives. But Mexico has its own national circumstances. Facing threats from the beautiful country, Mexico's high-ranking officials have their own methods. Mr. President, happy cooperation. In the presidential mansion of Mexico's capital city, Carter lit a cigar, puffing clouds of smoke together with the Mexican President Manuel. Behind them, a genetic warrior lifted a box onto the table. When the box was opened, the room was filled with a golden glow. Gold bars were neatly arranged inside the box. This precious metal, which has been passed down through human history, is the best hard currency in international society, even more effective than the US dollar. In any country, as long as you have gold, wealth is guaranteed. Manuel's eyes instantly lit up, his breathing becoming heavy. But he righteously said, "Carter, don't worry. Your Tijuana Group is a legitimate tax-paying enterprise in our country. The beautiful country has no reason to suppress you, and we will definitely not follow their orders. You can do your business at ease. I will give you full support. Thank you very much." Mr. Su once said that he would invite you to visit Southeast Asia when there's an opportunity, so that both sides can establish closer diplomatic relations. Carter stood up and shook hands with Manuel amicably. "Absolutely. I admire Mr. Su very much and look forward to that meeting." Manuel smiled happily. The Mexican president's term is only 6 years and cannot be extended after it ends. Moreover, the political situation in Mexico is corrupt. Every president who comes to power tries to gain as many benefits for himself as possible before his authority expires. Meanwhile, the Tijuana Group has intertwined interests and influence within Mexico. Their smuggling operations provide numerous jobs at the grassroots level and significant revenue for many mid to high-level officials. Every month, from patrol guards to government officials and armed commanders, all receive bribes from the Tijuana Group like a salary. They only need to perform some insignificant tasks to become umbrellas for the Tijuana Group. Not to mention the powerful armed forces of the Tijuana Group. Their military strength in Mexico is about 10,000 strong, essentially a warlord faction. With the presence of many super soldiers, Mexico can't clear them out, nor is there any incentive to do so. Isn't it better to peacefully accept the money? Even drug cartels can thrive in Mexico, let alone the more powerful and wealthier Tijuana Group, which has almost become a part of Mexico, symbiotically living with the citizens. Trying to eradicate them is like climbing the sky. Wow! Worthy of the Tijuana Group, so generous. Seeing Carter leave, Manuel hugged the box and stroked the gold inside. His face was full of a silly smile as he resolved that the Tijuana Group must stay undisturbed. If such a generous enterprise is banned, where else can he find such good money-making channels? As for whether this would lead to Mexico being retaliated against by the beautiful country, as long as his interests are unaffected, it means nothing. Carter left the presidential mansion, but Manuel was not his only bribery target. Soon, mysterious payments were made into the private bank accounts of various high-level officials in Mexico. Or if there were ladies or misses in their homes, there would inexplicably appear several bottles of Tianyuan whitening liquid, all advanced series. Including overseas study or business pursuits of their children, the Tijuana Group would support it all. And 2 days later, at Mexico's parliamentary session, when the proposal on arresting genetic warriors and banning the Tijuana Group was put forth, the vote resulted in 485 against and 15 in support. The proposal was overwhelmingly opposed and fundamentally unapproved. A week quickly passed, and facing the beautiful country's demands, Mexico responded simply, "People? What people? You say genetic warriors, we don't have such entities in our country. As for the Tijuana Group, that is a legitimate and compliant enterprise engaging in regular business activities. We have neither reason nor right to ban it." This perfunctory response greatly angered the beautiful country. President Lawrence openly criticized and scolded. "Are you protecting those evil criminals? Acting as the JECA Group's lapdogs? Our beautiful country will never turn a blind eye. From today, I declare the strictest economic sanctions on Mexico." Manuel scolded back in a press conference the next day with a tough attitude. "Economic sanctions against us? Mexico has never feared and will not be your beautiful country's underling." Mexico's strong stance prompted the beautiful country to launch severe economic sanctions, directly banning the import of Mexican products. Mexico's export market is too singular, with 80% of exports being purchased by the beautiful country, heavily dependent on its imports. Mexico's automotive and electronics industries, which account for half of the country's exports, primarily target the beautiful country for their end market. With the countries in close geographical proximity, Mexico's businesses mostly depend on importing raw materials, parts, and intermediate goods from the beautiful country, using Mexico's cheap labor to assemble them into final products, then exporting them back. Now that the beautiful country has banned imports, Mexico's export trade has instantly collapsed. In normal countries encountering this issue, the economy would suffer severely, making it hard to withstand the beautiful country's economic sanctions. But most of the factories set up within Mexico are erected or partially owned by Mexican capitalists. With these sanctions from beautiful country, their goods can't be sold, and these beautiful country capitalists are in a panic. The losses are all their real silver and gold, so they run around accusing and demanding the sanctions be lifted. At the same time, losing Mexico as an ideal location with cheap labor for an industrial processing country also leads to a rise in many industrial products prices in beautiful country. However, Mexico suffered even greater losses. Countless workers lost their jobs, and without basic necessities in order to survive, they began to enter beautiful country illegally in large numbers. The Tijuana Group provided significant assistance in this matter. On the Texas border, inside an abandoned warehouse, a tunnel entrance is uncovered, and a few armed men in Tijuana uniforms climb out. "Hey, those in the back! Keep up! Get up here quickly!" One of the Tijuana men beckons into the tunnel, seeing illegal immigrants climbing out one after another. In addition to Mexicans, there are many other immigrants from Central and South America. The Tijuana Group found them and helped them sneak across for free, bringing them to what they believe is heaven, where they can breathe the sweet and free air. "This is beautiful country. Woohoo! I made it! I'm a beautiful country person now. Haha! I'm going to get rich here. Flirt with beautiful women. Beautiful country dream. Here I come. Thank you, Tijuana Group. If it weren't for you, it wouldn't have been so easy for us to get into beautiful country." Many of them had wild eyes, full of longing for beautiful country, already fantasizing about living a life of debauchery here. Unfortunately, they didn't know that life in beautiful country isn't as wonderful as advertised. Such debauchery is reserved for the rich. The ordinary people are as poor as ever, as evident from the countless homeless on the streets. This is our employment guide for beautiful country. Each of you gets one. Take it and get familiar. The Tijuana group staff took out a stack of pamphlets and distributed them to each person present. This booklet contained a lot of knowledge. For example, the first page taught them how to avoid police inspections to prevent deportation. In short, urging them to stay on this land as long as possible, causing trouble for beautiful country. Many of these illegal immigrants, especially those from Central America, were the dregs of their societies. Upon reaching beautiful country, this prosperous world easily led them astray. Without legal status, many jobs were unavailable to them. Eventually, without money, except for the charity meals distributed on the streets to keep them from starving, what else could they turn to? It's obvious. The Tijuana group wouldn't stop them, even provided employment guidelines, talking about the dangers of illegal activities. For instance, page 13 of the employment guide explains how to pick car locks in detail, with illustrated steps, teaching them how to unlock the car door. At the end, there was a small line of text that was barely readable without a magnifying glass. This is a criminal activity, and it's teaching you how to effectively prevent others from breaking into your own car. Do not learn and use this. The employment guide had many points of knowledge, like the easiest way to participate in $0 shopping, the amount of shoplifting at convenience stores that wouldn't lead to prosecution, how to form gangs, etc. Of course, at the end of the pamphlet, there was always a disclaimer from the Tijuana group, saying this was teaching them how to prevent such acts, and they must not actually learn and use this knowledge. Each illegal immigrant receiving the booklet had glowing eyes, feeling as if they were holding the Bible, eagerly studying. After distributing all the booklets, the Tijuana group organized these immigrants to disperse, watching them head off to the cities of their dreams. As for what havoc these people would wreak once they got into beautiful country, that was no longer the Tijuana group's problem. The Tijuana group had received no payment. They were simply fulfilling the dreams of these beautiful country hopefuls. As expected, the influx of these illegal immigrants soon showed its impact. The border wall set up by beautiful country couldn't stop the smuggling tunnels of the Tijuana group. A large number of illegal immigrants were sent into beautiful country by the Tijuana group, coming with nothing but their mouths to feed. Unable to find work, they began committing crimes, leaving beautiful country in a panic, their heads spinning. Many found that even if they managed to catch and deport someone, the same person would be seen back in the city after just a few days, thanks to the Tijuana group bringing them back for free. This move hit beautiful country right where it hurt. The reason beautiful country was reluctant to fully annex Mexico was because of the over 100 million impoverished people there. Even with all of beautiful country's wealth, being flooded by over 100 million poor would be unbearable, drastically lowering the average quality of life. Originally, some beautiful country politicians proposed using force against Mexico. But what kind of people are Mexico? Seeing beautiful country's actions, they immediately opened their border defenses, with many citizens gathering at the border. As soon as beautiful country soldiers arrived, these war refugees would escape to beautiful country with their families. Mexico is not like other countries. Those countries attacked by beautiful country can't send refugees across the ocean easily. But Mexico, sharing a large border, makes it much easier to sneak across. Once war broke out, millions or tens of millions of refugees fleeing to beautiful country. Just imagine that scene. Beautiful country would be terrified, disgusted by Mexico's tactic. Through this method, only a month into the sanctions, they had to be urgently stopped. Mexico, through such underhanded means, forced beautiful country to compromise, loosening the sanctions to at least allow industrial goods to circulate and be traded. Mexico's approach was like saying, as long as I'm poor and in ruins, you can't exploit me. Even if I can't fight you, I can still disgust you. To Mexico's top officials, it didn't matter if the lower classes lost their jobs, as the money and benefits sent by Tijuana were far greater than their salaries anyway. As for the Tijuana group, they continued to develop steadily, their smuggling operations never halting, with bottles of Tijuana whitening liquid, nearsighted pill, hair growth liquid, and slimming pills continuously entering beautiful country's black market for sale, and the blood they procured transferred out of beautiful country. Beautiful country was furious at Mexico's disgusting tactics. Since they couldn't do anything about this tactic from Mexico for the time being, they set their sights on the Jeca group. As long as they dealt with the Jekka group, the Tijuana group would become a rootless tree, unable to stir up any trouble. Time passes quickly. The upheaval on Blue Star settles down. An eerie calmness pervades as though before a storm. Chan Country, underground poisonous insect space. Su Jie sits cross-legged on the ground with his eyes closed. In front of him, all the blood storage tanks which were originally filled with fresh blood are now empty. Suddenly, Su Jie's eyes snap open, and the sound of tide waves reverberates in the void. Blood. Blood river. Blood lake. Centered on Su Jie's body, the ground erupts like a fountain of blood, and dense blood gushes wildly. Looking around, Su Jie's body is already submerged in a lake of blood. Su Jie's body also dissolves, merging with the blood lake. In the next moment, a colossal beast over 100 meters tall, with 3 heads and 6 tails, emerges from the blood lake, its body composed of blood and exuding a majestic and grand anomaly. Blood Sea Devouring Sky Demon Skill, 6th level. The beast's voice thunderously roars. It's Su Jie's voice. In the next instant, the enormous beast collapses, reverting to Su Jie's body. It is the result of continuous cultivation with fresh blood, advancing the Blood Sea Devouring Sky Demon skill to the 6th level. Compared to the 5th level, which transforms the body into a blood sea, Su Jie can now merge his primordial spirit within the blood sea to form a powerful blood demon image, making Su Jie appear more like a devil. This is the effect of Jekka Group's constant financial input, purchasing massive quantities of fresh blood. Although the blood quality from Blue Star is relatively low, the sheer quantity compensates for it. Demon cultivation methods often progress swiftly in the beginning but slow down significantly later, highlighting the difference compared to righteous skills. But Su Jie's Blood Sea Devouring Sky Demon skill advances rapidly. While the demon cultivators in the Blood Demon Cave of Tianyuan World fight over slight amounts of blood, Su Jie consumes hundreds to thousands of tons daily, enough to make those Blood Demon Cave demon cultivators envious. Additionally, the heart demon issue that troubles Blood Demon Cave demon cultivators. Su Jie purifies his holy blood by sending it continuously into Blue Star's space, utilizing the observation method, drawing from the vast divine radiance of the sun to cleanse the heart demon within, enabling Su Jie to avoid the heart demon's influence and progress rapidly. During this time, Su Jie's advancements are not limited to the Blood Sea Devouring Sky Demon skill. Gold, wood, water, fire, earth, spleen, lungs, kidney, liver, heart. Su Jie's face remains calm, and with each word he speaks, a corresponding inner god of his organs shines with divine radiance. As his words end, an immense power erupts from within Su Jie, causing the ground to crack inch by inch. With merely a bit of leaked momentum, the place resembles a hurricane's aftermath, the ground sinking half a meter deep. Within Su Jie's 5 organs, it seems 5 gods gradually open their eyes. Their eyes are like the high-hanging sun, the silent cold moon, flashing dazzling divine light, illuminating the thousands of mountains and rivers, witnessing the changes of the world, manifesting various anomalies. Within the heart, a volcano spews thick smoke, transforming into fiery spiritual power, and a flame god wearing a crown appears. Upon its emergence, the surrounding area within 100 meters becomes a hell of flames, the ground scorched into barren earth. Within the liver, a willow tree with thousands of branches stands, its roots like feet, branches like arms, the trunk sketching out blurred facial features. This divine wood giant seems like the source of life in the world. The resilient moss growing in the underground poisonous insect's base suddenly begins to grow wildly, covering walls and ground, creating a lush green scene. Within the kidneys, surging spiritual power forms a tsunami that engulfs everything, constructing a giant formed of tidal waves. Within the lungs, a mountain giant lies horizontally. As the giant trembles, the earth cracks with ravines, separating its limbs, forming a mountain giant. Within the spleen, clusters of divine iron immortal gold transform into a massive metallic giant, roaring towards the sky. Su Jie simultaneously activates the 5 inner gods, signifying he is fully tapped into the power of his heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys, nurturing gods within the 5 organs. Now, with the completion of cultivating the 5 organs, Su Jie has reached the secret realm 5th level cultivation, standing at the pinnacle of the secret realm. Boom! Su Jie casually punches, straightforwardly channeling spiritual power through his body, forming a spiritual power beam. The beam shifts with 5 different colors, representing the attributes of the 5 organs' powers: the burning damage from the heart, the enduring length from the kidneys, the sturdy hardness from the spleen, the ceaseless growth from the liver, and the armor-piercing penetration from the lungs. The beam shoots out for over 100 meters, splitting the ground, leaving devastation in its wake, piling up mud waves into a small mound. A seemingly ordinary punch carries the endless cycle of the 5 elements, spiritual power vast as the ocean. With every move, it feels like the rotation of the 5 elements, suppressing down with power several times that of the previous secret storage realm 4th layer. Due to the completion of the 5 organs cultivation, their interconnection and smooth operation allow Su Jie to accommodate more spiritual energy, breaking the human body's limits, opening new spiritual energy storage. Now, Su Jie's spiritual power has undergone a transformative change in both quantity and quality. This is the pinnacle of the secret realm. Su Jie glances at his fist. After advancing to the secret realm within just a few short years, Su Jie has traversed the realm that other cultivators spend decades, hundreds of years, or even a lifetime to reach the secret realm 5th level cultivation. Moreover, Su Jie's purple cloud divine body, combined with various trump cards, allowed him to slay Zhuang Liangru, even in the critically injured state, when he was at secret storage realm 4th layer. Now, Su Jie has ascended to the secret realm 5th level.